Wrestlemania!
We cannot start this review without talking about the rain.
We are in a weather delay.
This show seemed cursed from the get-go. About an hour before the show was about to start, I saw Dave Meltzer tweeted that there's a big thunderstorm due to hit Tampa Bay, Florida. But then Gerald Briscoe straight away replied back saying, yeah, it's expected to hit and then leave straight away. Well, Briscoe's a bit of a company man and was kind of towing the company line because it didn't hit and leave straight away. It hit and it stayed for about the first 45 minutes of Mania, making this the worst start in WrestleMania history. But why was it so bad? Well, let me tell you, because of all the terrible off-the-cuff promos that we were getting from wrestlers who just quite simply couldn't live up to the standard expected of a WrestleMania promo. Now, I mean, it's not entirely their fault because how were they supposed to know that this was going to happen? But WWE need these guys on the roster who can just smash it out the park in an instance like Seth Rollins did.
WrestleMania!
But besides Seth Rollins, it was pretty cringy to sit through it all those 45 minutes before we finally had the first match of the evening. And we kicked it off hot and heavy as Bobby Lashley took on Drew McIntyre for the WWE title. Now, I'll be honest with you, I don't know if this match was always penned to start the show or whether it was a last minute decision because, hey, they'd just gone through all this terrible stuff. They're like, let's get our best thing on straight away. And it felt like a tiny bit of a flop. It wasn't a terrible match. It just didn't really feel like it lived up to a WWE title match at WrestleMania. But then again, neither did last year's. Of course, there was live crowd in attendance for the first time in over a year. So this was really put up there as the big show. It's not just WrestleMania, it's the return to live action. So, me as a fan who wasn't there, I was buzzing for it. I've been to 4 WrestleManias. You can go back on my channel, you can watch my videos, my day in the life videos going to Mania, Hall of Fame, Raw after WrestleMania, SmackDown after WrestleMania, 205 Live, all the indie shows, WrestleCon, all that stuff. It's all on my channel. You can go watch it. There's a big WrestleMania playlist. But it was starting to feel like everything that could go wrong on this one day WWE wanted everything to go right was kind of going wrong because we had all the rain and then we had the title match go on first and it wasn't terrible, don't get me wrong. It was an okay match. It just wasn't really WrestleMania quality, was it? Then we had a women's tag team turmoil match, which I'll be honest with you, women's wrestling is on the rise. It's still got a long way to go, but it is getting better and better. And this match was a decent watch. I enjoyed it. I thought the best team in there was the Riot Squad, Liv Morgan and Ruby Riott. Some of the tag teams in there didn't really make much sense, but your winners in the end were Natalya and Tamina. Like I say, it was a good match, and then we moved on for what to me was the match of the night. It was Cesaro versus Seth Rollins. Cesaro and Rollins is really a throwback match to me, and I absolutely loved it because when I was in uni in 2009 and 2010, I used to sit in my uni room and I used to watch people like Assault and Battery, Stevie Breach, It's Miguel Yo. I would see them going to all these WrestleMania shows. I'd watch all their vlogs and I'd be like, oh my god, I would love to be able to go to that. But I was a poor, skint kid from Britain. How was I supposed to get there? But me and my housemate Ed on Live, you can also find his channel on YouTube, I used to get all these Ring of Honor matches and show him, and one of the matches I remember showing him was Tyler Black versus Claudio Castagnoli, aka Seth Rollins versus Cesaro. And we loved watching this back in 2009, 2010. Now it's 2021 and it's Rollins Cesaro at WrestleMania and they absolutely delivered. I'm not just going to go all fanboy on it though. I do have critiques of this match, and my main critique of it was the narrative of this match was that Cesaro has never had a singles match at WrestleMania, so this is the biggest match of his career. It is make it or break it time for him. So in one foul swoop, what this does is it makes any WrestleMania match bigger than any title that Cesaro's ever won. So all the tag team titles, Intercontinental, if he's won the US, I'm sure he's won a bunch of all that stuff. None of that counts now because what they're saying is just to win this match at WrestleMania means more than all of that. He even won the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, the first ever one. You're supposed to make this thing feel big. I mean, let's be honest. They didn't even put it on the pre-show this time. They put it on SmackDown before WrestleMania. Ugh, WWE. Woof. And not to get too sidetracked here, but this whole nonsense of a 2-day WrestleMania, don't know if I'm buying it or not. I saw friends of friends at WrestleMania this year. I'd love to hear their opinion of what they think of the 2-day WrestleMania, but for me, to be completely honest with you, I don't like it. I like the idea of a one-day WrestleMania event, going to Hall of Fame, going to all these other events through the week, but it is a really, really long, exhausting day. You might think going to WrestleMania is great, it's the best thing in the world. I am knackered by the end of it. But it really feels like we're going through this whole devaluing of their own product from WWE. When you make WrestleMania from this one huge thing to these two okay things, you really, really devalue it. Because this show was just a decent Monday Night Raw. It wasn't even the greatest Monday Night Raw of all time. If you take away the grandeur of the stadium, the fireworks, the pyro, all that stuff, there was really nothing in this show that would make you be like, oh my god, this is really WrestleMania worthy. If you took the logo off and the stadium away, it'd just be normal. And then when you put matches on SmackDown as well, not for me. But let's end talking about that match on a positive note. It was a really, really good match. Cesaro did get the win. I just thought the whole narrative was corny and really, really took away from the entire product.
Of a man who has dedicated his life to get to this moment.
Speaking of taking away from the product, we had AJ Styles and Omos versus Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston of the New Day. First off the bat, I want to say it was great to see the New Day back together. I don't watch the WWE week to week, but I know the New Day have been separated, and it felt genuinely nice to see them back together on screen. Obviously, Big E came out and he introduced Kofi and Xavier Woods. They high-fiving, clapping hands, this really, really hype start. That's believable. This really, really drew me into it because that's how I would be if my mates were going into a fight. I'm like, come on lads, you could do this. But then we had AJ and Omos, and they're hyping up this entire thing where they're saying Omos has never had a match before, so this is going to be like his debut at WrestleMania, and obviously you can just look at him and know he's really limited in the ring, and it really, really turned me off this match. This really feeds into my narrative of this being just a regular Monday Night Raw show. AJ and a partner versus the New Day is just like what you'd see on Raw. You've got Kofi Kingston, for example. You've got AJ Styles, two massive stars. I'd have much rather seen them go one-on-one. Bring Omos in that, but you don't need to debut him in the ring at WrestleMania because it just felt flat to me. In the end, AJ and Omos got the win. I do really like Omos' look. He looks like an absolute destroyer of worlds. He looks like someone you should take seriously. And I'll be honest with you, I am looking forward to see what they do with him in the future. But this match itself took away from all that. This match didn't add to all that. It made me be like, oh great, this is going to be a slow prodding process, and you're not starting that process with this match on Raw, you're starting it with this on WrestleMania Night 1, the first time the fans have been there in over a year, and you're giving me this? Come on WWE. Either way, AJ and Omos win the tag team titles. The commentary team are trying to make it sound like a big deal, but again, how can I make this feel like a big deal when a couple years ago you had a child win the tag team titles at WrestleMania? Like, You've made this normal now. Speaking of a child winning a tag team title, next up we had a cage match as Braun Strowman took on Shane McMahon in what was a decent match. Now, Shane McMahon can tell a good story in the ring. One, because he's been around wrestling for so long, but two, because Shane only has to work maybe twice a year, something like that, so he can really put his body through the ringer. And he's a millionaire, don't forget, so he can get all the best therapy, the best treatments. We won't talk about the Botox, Shane, but he can get all that best stuff so he can have his body in the best condition possible and then give it all the rest possible. But yeah, credit's where it's due. Big bump from Shane McMahon. We all knew something was coming, we just didn't know what it was. It was absolutely wild, the bump that he took. Woof. I don't really like the angle that they're going with him. I think Braun Strowman is one of the people that's really suffering as well from the social media age. I was there when he debuted at the Raw after SummerSlam in Brooklyn. Again, you can go see my day in the life videos on that on my channel too. And when he debuted, I was by myself and I was talking to everyone around me and we were all like, oh my god, who is this guy? I don't know who this is. He's not on the NXT roster. We've no idea who he is. And he looks incredible. What are they going to do with him? And they've made him into too much of a cartoony character on screen, and then off screen, the stuff that he says on social media, it kind of turns me off him. But then again, what does this guy do in real life? I mean, I've still got the cane top, but hey, this is memories for me. This is memories. Maybe kids are going to feel the same way about Braun. Then in the semi-main event, we had Bad Bunny and Damian Priest against Miz and Morrison. So first of all, Damian Priest, been a big fan of him for years. When I saw him in Ring of Honor, I was like, wow, this guy's really got something. He's big, he's huge, he's imposing, he's got a great look, and he can move. I can't wait to see what he does in the future. The Bad Bunny stuff, typically I hate when WWE brings celebrities in and put them in matches, but Bad Bunny is the biggest music star in the world right now. He gets more streams than anyone else. I think at least he did last year. So I can see what they're doing with it. I don't like it. This isn't for me. This is for other consumers to bring them into the product, maybe Bad Bunny fans, so they can become a fan of pro wrestling. But how can you become a fan of pro wrestling when you watch the wrestlers lose against Bad Bunny? At the same time, he does give the rub to Damian Priest, which is nice, but it's just one of them to me. Then in the main event, we had Sasha Banks defending the title against the Royal Rumble winner, Bianca Belair. Now, I want to start off with only positivity about this match. One, Michael Cole said it from the start. This is the first time two black women have had a one-on-one world title match at WrestleMania. And I call it a world title match because that's what the women's title is. These two delivered in the ring. They had some nice spots. The spot where she whipped Sasha Banks in the midsection with her braid. Woof, I thought she'd gone and ripped her torso in half. Credit where it's due, these two did deliver in this match. They put on a good match and Bianca Belair came out as champion. Now, that's the positivity over. At the end of the match, Bianca Belair, she did this crying thing where she's like, oh my god, I can't believe it, I can't believe it, I've done it, I've won the belt. And it's just a little bit lame because it's not really realistic. You might be sat there at home thinking, yeah, that is realistic, that's exactly what would happen, but it kind of isn't, because if you go and watch women's MMA, which is the closest comparison to this, when they win the title, they don't stand there and start crying in the ring. They, they're as badass as the men. They're like, yeah, I won the title. What do you expect? I'm badass. I'm the best at what I do. But when it's the women in WWE, it's always all this crying emotion and stuff like that. It's something that I'm sure WWE pushes on them, and it's really, really forced. Really, really corny. Another thing is Bianca Belair, she came over from the CrossFit world. As far as I know, she had no interest in WWE all these years. She just decided, oh, let me just put my name forward and see if I can get a job. And don't get me wrong, she's had to put the work in. She's become a good professional wrestler. But all my favourite wrestlers are the wrestlers who were fans of wrestling when they were growing up. Adam, can you say wrestling a little bit more? Ugh. But what happens is when you're a fan of wrestling, you bring a different passion for it. It doesn't just become this thing of, oh, I'm really proud of what I've achieved. Oh, look at me. I can't believe all my hard work has paid off. I've become this. No, it becomes much more deeper than that. It becomes, oh my God, I've dreamed of this since I was a child. I put all that same work in. It's all the same work, but it's just a different motivation. It's just a different level. It's not, oh my God, I tried all this because I wanted a job and I wanted to be famous and I wanted loads of money. No, it's, I saw that on TV and I wanted to be exactly that. I wanted to be a wrestler. I didn't just want to be anything on TV. I wanted to be that one thing. I wanted to be a wrestler. I've become a wrestler and I've become the best wrestler and become the champion. And that's what I truly appreciate. Like these guys, like my favourite wrestlers, Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, Daniel Bryan, three guys who were wrestling fans growing up and really, really wanted to do it. And they really appreciated it when they got on that level. And it wasn't just the whole, oh my God, all my hard work has paid off. Now I'm here. It's, oh my God, my dream has actually come true. But I still don't want to take anything away from Bianca Belair. I just want to make it clear why there's a disconnect with me and certain wrestlers. All in all, day one was not that special, but what about day two? So WrestleMania 2 kicked off with the exact same promo as they did the night before. Now they did this last year and it really irked me because you know you've got two separate nights. It's two separate shows. So don't run WrestleMania like it's one show and just have the same promo package over and over again. Change it up. Be like, wow, last night we had blah, 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 blah. You don't even need to say specifics. Just be like, oh, unusual events happened last night, or just something like that. I mean, I came up with that in 2 seconds. If I'm a WWE writer, if I'm writing these promos, you can write something much better than just saying, have the same promo 2 nights in a row. When we finally got to the matches, it was Randy Orton versus The Fiend Bray Wyatt. Now, I'm a huge fan of The Fiend. I love the look. I love how the start of the match, Alexa Bliss kind of rolled the box up and then he came out of the box. I thought that is one of the all-time great WrestleMania entrances. Then they had the match, decent match, and then it ends with that weird thing with Alexa Bliss coming out of the box, her head's kind of like spurting out all this black goo all over the place, and the Fiend is just obsessed with looking at her. This really alters the Fiend from this kind of supernatural kind of figure like The Undertaker, who couldn't really be distracted, apart from when his manager Paul Bearer was being attacked. No, this time Alexa Bliss is just sat there doing something supernatural, and then you're the supernatural guy going, oh, I'm just going to watch this, and boom, Randy Orton gets the win. And it felt really flat to me and really, really disappointing. I was really enjoying the match up until then, I'll be honest with you. I was really enjoying it. They did that and I thought, WWE, still up to your old tricks, aren't you? Then we had the women's tag team titles as Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax took on Tamina and Natalya. After Tamina and Natalya were really, really hyped up yesterday, they beat all those women in that tag team turmoil match, and then they lose this match, and it was just WWE putting that match on the night before just to have people on WrestleMania. But why do it when you could have had that match on SmackDown and then one of the WrestleMania matches you put on SmackDown could have actually been on WrestleMania? Doesn't really make sense to me, but it is what it is. Of course, there's the whole PC aspect of it. Maybe they wanted to get more women on the card, but just putting them there for the sake of it doesn't do anything for them. Next up was another match that I enjoyed, Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn. This feud goes back years and years and years to the El Generico Kevin Steen days. We all know the story of it. We all saw that great video package that some fan made and then ROH ended up using themselves. And for all the hate that Logan Paul gets, I actually thought that he actually added to this feud. The way that Sami Zayn was kind of this conspiracy guy, and there's this whole belief on the internet that, you know, if you go to YouTube, it's full of conspiracies. So, of course, he goes and gets the biggest YouTuber he can, Logan Paul, one of the most famous people on the platform, to back up Sami Zayn's conspiracies, but Sami Zayn, in the end, couldn't convince him. Logan Paul ends up siding with Kevin Owens after the win, and Kevin Owens stuns him, and he takes the worst stunner of all time, which was actually entertaining, and for me, is the right way that you use celebrity. Not putting them in a match, beating your actual wrestlers. And this show was on a roll because next we had Matt Riddle defending the United States Championship against Sheamus. Earlier on in the show, he had a great little pre-tape package with the great Carl Lee and Rob Van Dam, where they were kind of playing off the whole 420 stuff between RVD and Matt Riddle without specifically saying it. And then it shows Carl Lee in person, which, a weird side note, I didn't watch the Hall of Fame, but I saw the clip package that they did in the middle of this show, where Carly accepted his award from home and not the arena. But then if he was there live in person, why did he accept from home and not in person? And then he ended up on WrestleMania like a week later. Like, I don't understand. This match is cool. I'm a big fan of Matt Riddle. Sheamus gets the win with a bro kick, countering Riddle doing like a lion salt at him. Kicks him in the mouth, proper kicks him in the mouth. Riddle's bleeding at the end of it. It was a good visual. Then the IC title match. Wale brings out the champion Big E as he's going to take on Apollo Crews in what I believe they were calling an African or Nigerian drum match. A bit ridiculous. It didn't really mean anything. This really harps back to the old hokey days of pro wrestling, but it is what it is. It wasn't too bad, and the match was decent itself. Apollo got some help at the end by a mysterious helper who just decks Big E and helps Apollo get the win. Side note, the US title and IC title and a lot of the titles now look ugly. Then we had Rhea Ripley versus Asuka, Raw Women's title match. Again, a decent match. But at this point though, I was kind of getting bored and I was watching from home. At this point, I was kind of just getting it through it as a chore and I wasn't really enjoying it for what it is. It's WrestleMania. Every year for I don't know how long, I would watch WrestleMania straight away. I'd either watch it live in person, live from home, or the next morning I would wake up and watch it, or I'd watch it after work the next day. Whatever I had to do, I would watch it straight away. This time, I kind of left it until the afternoon. I could have watched it in my dinner break at work, and I didn't really bother because the just hype wasn't really there. When I got back round to it, and I was watching it, it was just really dragging me down. I'm like, woof, I'm watching this as a bit of a chore right now. And people always say, if you're not enjoying something, why watch it? You don't have to watch it. Why are you being so negative about it? But I think they're completely misunderstanding the whole nature of fandoms. I'm a huge fan of WWE. I have been since 1993. Now, I don't watch it for the most part for those very same reasons. I know that I'm not going to enjoy it, but every year WWE tells me, this is WrestleMania. This is the biggest show of the year. We're going to give you the best show possible. So I go, great. I can't wait for it. And they also tell me the main event's the best stuff. So I'm going to watch it all the way through because I want to see everything on the road to it, just in case there's any like slight callbacks and stuff like that. Because wrestling is nuanced like that, and I do want to enjoy it for all those minutiae. But that's not what WWE's giving me. They're giving me a lot of stuff that's maybe 3 out of 5, or let's say 6 out of 10 level stuff, which is fine. I don't mind watching that, but I don't want to watch it 2 nights in a row and for both to be like 3 hours long. Like, you're really just grinding me down with average stuff after average stuff, and I'm going to get to more of that at the end of this video. Main event time. This really showed me the way the fandom of WWE is drastically switching, because it was Roman Reigns versus Edge versus Daniel Bryan, and the fans were complaining that Daniel Bryan was in the main event of WrestleMania. Now flashback to WrestleMania 31. Everyone wanted Daniel Bryan in the main event and nobody wanted Roman Reigns in the main event, and WWE gave it to us anyway and we were fuming with it. Now we're 6 years later at WrestleMania 37, no one wanted Daniel Bryan to be put into this match. They just wanted Roman Reigns versus Edge one-on-one. Now the match itself, it was fine. It was like your mum making you some soup. Now, don't get me wrong, my mum makes nice soup, but if my mum invited me round once a year and said, Adam, this is going to be the biggest meal all year, the best meal all year, you turn up there and she provides you soup, you're like, Mum, this soup's fine, but I mean, you didn't need to give me all the hype around it. This isn't WrestleMania level soup. This is just a standard meal, like, what's going on? Now, of course, we're still in the middle of a pandemic, and I can't really blame WWE for not being able to hype up and get us to that level, because they're not working with the same stuff, are they? They're not working with live fans on a week-to-week basis. They're not really seeing what's going on. And it's hard to look on social media because the loudest voices aren't always the truest reflection, because for the most part, I might say, for example, I want Daniel Bryan in the main event. Let's say I'm the loudest voice, but I may not be a true reflection of everybody else, so it's hard for them to judge in that aspect. That's why this WrestleMania, I kind of give it a pass. It's not the kind of thing where I'm like, listen, I'm done with wrestling now. I'm still done with it on a week-to-week basis. I'm not going to watch it week-to-week, but WrestleMania 38, I still want to go, because I do believe that WrestleMania 38, they're going to give us a better show. They're going to have more of a quality build when they get in front of more and more live audiences as the year goes on. And also, when you are live in person, it does come across a lot better. When I'm watching at home, I'm just thinking, oh, I could be doing this, I could be doing that. Like, why am I sat watching this TV show still? There's a few other questions that I have about WrestleMania, because I don't watch week to week. I'm not really sure what's going on. So first, where was Charlotte Flair? I have no idea where she was. Maybe she's injured, so again, give that a pass. Then, what's up with Hogan and Titus O'Neil? That is the worst double act in the history of pro wrestling. What's going on with Bayley? I'm actually asking this from a positive perspective, because she didn't wrestle on the show, she's probably injured, but I really did enjoy the stuff that she was doing. She's annoying, but in a really funny, good way. And it was really weird that they're doing the mentions of Bischoff's podcast, 83 Weeks. Shout out to anyone who still listens to it. Is it any good still? Drop me in the comments down below, let me know. Hey, but if you're so smart, why didn't you come up with something better? And how would I have made WrestleMania better? Or at least in my opinion, because that's what this is. Wrestling is an opinion-based thing. There's no facts in wrestling. It's all just opinion. So here's my opinion on what I would have done to make it better. First off, you had 14 matches on WrestleMania. Add that to the 2 SmackDown WrestleMania matches that they had. That's 16 matches. That's actually twice as many as you really need. You only need 8 matches for a good, perfect WrestleMania, in my opinion. So straight off, I'm scrapping half the matches. Now you might be thinking, why? If you leave all those people off, then they're going to make less money, and this is the biggest payday of the year. Listen, I completely understand that, but this is entertainment. This is art. It's not fair. Nothing's fair in life, really, is it? You've got to go with what's best. And if I'm going to be in charge of picking what's best for this show, it's having 8 matches and not 16. Yes, a lot of people are going to miss out, but hey, that's just the way it is. The 8 matches I would have chosen would have been the 2 women's title matches. I think they were perfectly fine, good matches. I would have picked Orton versus The Fiend. I would have picked Sheamus versus Riddle. I would have picked Cesaro versus Rollins. I would have picked the 2 heavyweight title matches, and I also would have picked Braun versus Shane in the cage. Now, what I've done there is I've just gone off what the WWE gave me. They gave me 16 matches, and I've gone 8. 8 of these, I don't really need them. I'll take these 8, please. And honestly, if I would have been given a WrestleMania with just those 8 matches, even if it was 4 hours long, all in one sitting, that would have been an absolutely amazing WrestleMania. But if you put all this chaff in the middle, it just doesn't taste the same. It's like having a delicious pizza in front of you, and then someone coming out going, hey, I've got all this uncooked rice. And I'm like, listen, I don't want to eat uncooked rice. But yeah, but you got this delicious pizza here. Let me just sprinkle half of this uncooked rice all over your pizza. But why? My pizza's fine as it is. I don't need all this extra stuff involved. Sure, I can do some stuff with that uncooked rice later, put it to one side, I'll cook it, make a nice dish out of it, have it another time. No, you have to have it right now on your pizza. But why? You just ruined my pizza, you've ruined my WrestleMania. I would have done a fantasy booking for this, but I'm going to save that for another time. I'm probably going to do another deep dive on this WrestleMania when I get to the end of my WrestleMania review series. I'm currently on WrestleMania 3. That review will be coming soon. So with all that being said, it's time to throw it over to you guys. What did you think of WrestleMania 37? Was it a good show? Am I being overly harsh? Or am I being too lenient to it? Are you saying that there just wasn't enough on this to make you involved? Because you may be a casual fan of wrestling, and WrestleMania is the show that's supposed to get the casual fans involved. I remember being at uni and my friends being like, oh, I'm going to put WrestleMania on tonight. It's The Rock versus John Cena. Now, I was a hardcore fan at the time, and I'd be saying, oh, I'm not really that into Rock versus John Cena, but all they were. I can't imagine me showing this show to loads of my mates, and half of them even being like, yeah, I want to watch that. They might want to see the cage match between Strowman and Shane, with the big bump and all that stuff, but I can't imagine a lot of this other stuff that they'd enjoy at all. That being said, most people would probably hate the Fiend thing, but I loved all the stuff with the Fiend. The only thing I didn't enjoy was that corny bit at the end where he was just stood transfixed looking at Alexa Bliss and Orton gets the win. This should be his big return. He comes back, he beats Randy Orton, and then somehow Randy Orton in the future maybe gets back at him. But what you've done now is Randy Orton's burned him. He's beat him at WrestleMania. And then you've called Backlash WrestleMania Backlash. What the hell? Listen, I can't keep going on. Just so many things annoying me with this show. I don't want to be that negative guy. Like I say, let's throw it back to you guys. What did you think of it? What was your favourite match? Favourite moment? Overall score? Overall thoughts? Drop that in the comments down below. We'll keep the conversation flowing there. I'll be back soon with more wrestling. WrestleMania 3 before you know it. Obviously, I've got Pokemon and all that stuff coming on the channel as well. So keep an eye out for that if you're interested. But with that, I am out. Thank you very much for watching.